Alright, so in today's guide, I'm going to be walking you through how to play the fighter in D&D 5e. Now, some people have given the fighter some flack because they feel like this is a really just generic, bland kind of a class. There's not a whole lot of like roleplay expectations built into it, but I push back against that because every game needs their generic, just sort of fighter dude to do all the generic fighter things. They need this to be pretty simple so that a new player can hop into this knowing exactly what they're doing with it and not have a really hard time grasping a whole lot of new concepts. So the fighter intentionally doesn't set up any roleplay expectations for you because it would rather spend that power budget on just giving you the features to make you a supreme martialist. So because of that, you get a whole lot of different types of fighters that you can see across different games. But generally, the way that this is going to play out in combat, we're going to go through that here. And I'm going to give you some recommendations on some features and let you know just sort of what we've learned as designers and as players of this game over the years, what is or is not going to create a pretty quality fighter. And as a disclaimer up front, I'm going to be talking about some things that I have other videos here on the channel about. If you're interested to know what I mean by zones or roles or dynamics, those are all going to be videos I'll post links up here somewhere. But your zone in combat, this is just going to be where you're positioned. Your role in combat, this is a quick summary of what your class features are telling you to do in combat. And then your dynamic is your roleplay dynamic. So with the fighter, let's go over into its class features. So with the fighter, you're going to get a D10 hit die, and your armor proficiency is literally all armor and shields. So with this, what this is telling me right now is if you want to play this in the front line, you absolutely can. However, fighter is also able to be built as a high dex character to make a ranged fighter for all the, crossbows or bows, whatever you want to do with that, right? Now, frontline style, mostly what you're going to be doing is going with all armor shields to get the chainmail that you're going to get in your equipment, and then go with most likely some kind of two-handed heavy weapon, if not the long sword and a shield. And since we're talking about weapons, you are going to get all weapon proficiencies with the exception of improvised weapons here. Your tools are none. Saving throws, your weak save is going to be strength, and your strong save is going to be constitution. And then with your skills, you're going to choose 2 skills from acrobatics, animal handling, athletics, history, insight, intimidation, perception, and survival. So real easy right here, I can see with athletics and intimidation, you can roll up a real easy muscle if you wanted to go with that intimidator route. With history and insight, I can see that leaning into more of like a knightly sort of a flavor, maybe like an investigator of sorts. And then with like survival, perception, and arguably animal handling, if you wanted to be the party's scout and navigator, there's some potential for you to do that as well. The equipment loadout, this can be a little bit tricky. So basically, if your strength is going to be higher than your dex, I would recommend picking up chainmail over leather armor, longbow, and 20 arrows. With the martial weapon and a shield or 2 martial weapons, what we've kind of figured out now is that the 2-weapon fighting thing hasn't worked out super great in D&D 5e. It's one of the things that they are updating for 1 D&D. We know that they are actively doing that. So because of the way that the action economy is currently working out with 2-weapon fighting, I would highly suggest leaning towards a martial weapon and a shield because, boy, your AC is going to be real nutty here at first level if you do. You can pick up a light crossbow and 20 bolts or 2 hand axes. With this one, thrown weapon fighting, like if you get the 2 hand axes, you can go with using strength for the thrown weapons, and that's cool. It gives you a little bit of ranged options there. There is always a potential that you lose those items, and, meh. A light crossbow and 20 bolts is there for an alternative if you do go with like a dex build, and then you get your 2 packs from either a Dungeoneer's pack or an Explorer's pack. So, getting into its class features wholesale here. Fighting style, you're going to get at first level alongside Second Wind. With your fighting style, you adopt a particular style of fighting as your specialty. Choose one of the following options. You can't take a fighting style option more than once, even if you get to later choose again. Now, my color rating system, boop, this should go up here, I'm sure. With the color rating system, this is telling you some things that I think are going to be like quote-unquote meta-defining or like build-defining for you. And then maybe some that we have figured out just don't really work out all that well. So, for archery, you gain a +2 bonus to attack rolls you make with ranged weapons. This is huge. Huge. A +2 bonus to attack rolls here. This is going to work alongside magic weapons that you can get later on. So eventually, if you do get a +2 bow or whatever, you now have a +4 bonus to attack rolls you make with that weapon on top of your proficiency bonus, on top of your dexterity. This is a absolutely nutty fighting style, absolutely build defining. This is undoubtedly a purple. Don't overlook this one if you're going for a dex build fighter. This should just basically be the default that you pick up. Defense. While you're wearing armor, you gain a +1 bonus to AC. This also stacks with magic armor that you can potentially get later on. Now, where you're wearing armor, if you decided to go with the chainmail, or realistically, I mean, if you went with the leather armor and longbow, you're picking up archery. Like, let's be real here. But if you go with the chainmail and you go with a martial weapon and a shield, boy, this is a really, really, really tough one not to pick up. Because what we're talking about here is 16 from the chainmail, the shield granting you a +2, so there's 18 right there. A 19 AC at first level, potentially being 20 if you went with like Warforged as your race. This is absolutely insane. The only reason why I would suggest maybe not picking this one up is that if you have like a natural armor proficiency, where that one's going to be a little bit higher than this one right here, as long as you're not wearing armor, then like, you know, maybe check out some of the other fighting styles or whatever. But like, for real, defense is just so great at the first tier of play, and it just sticks with you the entire time. Just a flat +1 bonus to your AC is so big. Dueling. This one I've rated as a blue because I just don't think that this one is going to be all that impactful compared to other ones. When you are wielding a melee weapon in one hand and no other weapons, you gain a +2 bonus to damage rolls with that weapon. Now, I originally had thought that this one should probably lean in towards orange, but it's really not an orange. A +2 bonus to damage rolls is just not quite as impactful as the bonus to attack rolls like that, so yeah. This would work for you if you were wielding a weapon in one hand and a shield in the other, because that shield is not a weapon, but like, it's just not quite as appealing as some of the other options in here, and this +2 bonus to damage rolls falls off way harder than the bonus to attack rolls or a bonus to AC. Dueling is here. Feel free to experiment with it and see what you think, but honestly, this fighting style is just not really worth it, in my opinion, to pick up, especially if you're choosing from any of these other ones. And then looking at great weapon fighting, when you roll a 1 or 2 on a damage die for an attack you make with a melee weapon that you are wielding with 2 hands, you can re-roll the die and must use the new roll, even if the new roll is a 1 or a 2. The weapon must have the two-handed or versatile property for you to gain this benefit. This is such a nice reliability and just like damage cushion for you. This is especially the kind of pickup that you need to be making if you go with Greatsword or Maul. Notice that these both have 2d6 for their damage die, right? Because of that, they have like a 33.3% chance of re-rolling these and getting a higher number if you go with Great Weapon Master. This is just like a superior offensive pickup if you are going with these two weapons in particular. However, I think that on other weapons with like the D12 hit die, these generally are going to have diminishing returns into like how often that's going to kick on for you. Just the chances are going to be lower overall. Whenever it does happen on a Great Axe, I guess it's like, it's nice, it's here, and you get to re-roll it, but it's just pretty underwhelming whenever you've got something like this there. It's just a really nice damage cushion for you. I highly recommend if you go with a Great Sword or a Maul. I just feel like you kind of have to pick up this fighting style. Now, moving on from there, we get to Protection. When a creature you can see attacks a target other than you, that's within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to impose disadvantage on the attack roll. You must be wielding a shield. So, I like the idea here in that this wants to be a way for you to do a little bit of like peel, where if someone's attacking one of your buddies, you can potentially like interpose on the attack, but like, it just doesn't feel all that great. I know that whenever I was making my Vanguard class, one of the things I had to focus heavy on was like, you're not just doing the thing to like impose disadvantage on the roll, you have to like literally intercede on it in order to really make tanking feel good in this game. So, and I think that because they introduced, what was the new one? Like Interception? Yeah. They introduced the new one, so I feel like Wizards of the Coast even feels like they don't really think that this one performs all that well. So Protection, you're foregoing the potential to make an opportunity attack in order to protect one of your buddies, which I don't know. I don't know. I think like if you're a backline fighter, you're just probably never picking this one up because you're usually always going archery. And then if you're a frontline fighter, are you really picking this one up over great weapon fighting or defense? I just don't really see it. Is this one like an optional thing where like maybe it was part of a feat? I guess you can go over and take that with one of the martial. Yeah, it's really tricky. I think that protection is just kind of in a bad spot. It's one of the things that I think that we would likely see buffed in 1D&D. Two weapon fighting. When you engage in two weapon fighting, let's pause right there and address that right now. So what this means is if you have a weapon in both of your hands and you attack with one, you can make an attack with the other as a bonus action. However, this bonus action attack doesn't allow you to add your strength or dexterity modifier to the attack, unless you take this fighting style right here, which then says you can add your ability modifier to the damage of the second attack. This is just making it to where this feels viable at best. This is the kind of thing that like, oh man, you might want to pick it up as like a feat. I've seen some people talking about making dual wielding barbarian workout where you've got the two weapons and your rage damage bonus gets to be added to the other one. So therein, this fighting style might actually be kind of decent. But honestly, as many people have tried to crunch this one out, two weapon fighting, this is just a bad one to pick up compared to everything else that's on here. This is more so that like they just haven't made the tech quite right to make two weapon fighting feel good. We wanted to fulfill that fantasy. Unfortunately, this just isn't it. So from there, we'll go on to the optional class features because if you're playing with Tasha's, there are some other fighting styles that you have access to in the form of blind fighting, interception, superior technique, thrown weapon fighting, and unarmed fighting. So starting out with blind fighting, you have blind sight with a range of 10 feet. Within that range, you can effectively see anything that isn't behind total cover, even if you're blinded or in darkness. Moreover, you can see an invisible creature within that range unless the creature successfully hides from you. This one's kind of a mess. The whole way that invisibility works in 5e is getting a rework. It's very, very clunky. With the blind sight with a range of 10 feet, this range is pretty minuscule. You're really not ever picking this up on a ranged fighter. I guess as a martialist, this is here. It's an option, but God, there's just so many other better options for you than this right here. This is situational. This is ever really going to be a thing. And I guess when it's there, good. You're going to be happy that you picked this up, but like, meh? I don't know. This is just a really tricky one. I don't recommend blind fighting. If you can come up with a build that makes this sound absolutely insane, I'm happy to hear it in the comments, but I so far have been totally underwhelmed by this fighting style. Interception, this one, just totally ignore it. When a creature you can see hits a target other than you, within 5 feet of you, with an attack, you can use your reaction to reduce the damage the target takes by 1d10 plus your proficiency bonus to a minimum of 0 damage. You must be wielding a shield or a simple or martial weapon to use this reaction. Oh boy. So this is just not great. It is giving you the flexibility here compared to protection, where you could also be wielding a simple or martial weapon in addition to a shield in order to do this, but like oh god, the 1d10 plus your proficiency bonus reduction that's happening by you using your reaction, this is going to be kind of big in like the first tier of play. Second tier of play, okay, you're still going to be kind of feeling it. Third and above, I actually think once you get to 7th level and above, this is a nice little cushion here, but your reaction, god, honestly, I feel like I would rather be imposing disadvantage on the attack roll. I think that you're going to wind up preventing so much more damage from ever really happening, but you do have the flexibility here with a simple or martial weapon, so like, I personally think that Interception is just a terrible one to pick up, especially compared to anything else that you're going to get in here. Superior Technique, this one is absolutely purple. You learned one maneuver of your choice from among those available to the Battle Master Archetype. If a maneuver you use requires your target to make a saving throw to resist the maneuver's effects, the saving throw DC equals 8 plus your proficiency bonus, plus your strength or dexterity modifier, your choice. You gain 1 superiority die, which is a d6. This die is added to any superiority dice you have from another source. This die is used to fuel your maneuvers. A superiority die is expended when you use it, and you regain all your expended superiority die when you finish a short or long rest. So the maneuvers may vary in power. I did mark this one as purple because of the potential of some maneuvers to be really, really impactful. Once per combat, you being able to do this is pretty nice that you have this like ace in the hole thing that you can do. I think that in some cases, if you wanted to build out like a warlord, you would go over, get this, and then get like Commander's Strike, and then maybe if you went Battle Master, you would also get Rally, right, to get all that stuff. Superior Technique, this can be unique build defining. I do think that there are other fighting styles. I mean, if we compare this to Archery, I still think that Archery in general is just going to be better for you, but if you want the feel of a little bit more complexity with your fighter and be able to do different martial maneuvers like this, you should definitely be checking this one out. I don't know that I would make this my for sure level 1 pick, but if there were a way for me to get another fighting style later on, this is one I would definitely be checking out. Thrown weapon fighting. Thrown weapons just don't really work out all that great unless you have like maybe a returning loyal weapon or something, because I mean, you're disarming yourself as a part of doing this, so it's like, unless you have like a literal cloak of daggers, this one is just really mid. You can draw a weapon that has the thrown property as a part of the attack you make with the weapon. In addition, when you hit with a ranged attack using a thrown weapon, you gain a +2 bonus to the damage roll. So this is here. I mean, we're talking about like, you know, you throw a dagger and it's going to be doing what's essentially like it's got a D8 damage die, I believe. Yeah, D4 +1 would be D6 +2 would be an average of like a D8. Yeah. So it's basically like you're upping the damage die, quote unquote, in a way, mathematically at least. So like, that's an okay perk, but again, I just feel like I would have rather seen that maybe applied to attack rolls rather than damage rolls there. Yeah. But if you do get like a dagger that returns to you, or maybe that like God of War Leviathan axe, maybe you want to go in this direction, right? But like, unless the weapon is returning to you, this fighting style is just going to be so blah. Unarmed Fighting, this one's a blue. This is going to be for niche builds basically only. Your unarmed strikes can deal bludgeoning damage equal to 1d6 plus your strength modifier on a hit. If you aren't wielding any weapons or a shield when you make the attack roll, the d6 becomes a d8. At the start of each of your turns, you can deal 1d4 bludgeoning damage to one creature grappled by you. This one at most makes brawling, I guess, viable, you know? I don't really see this making a whole lot of impact overall for your character. Like I said, I think that this is going to be a niche build kind of a thing here. Compared to every other fighting style, I just don't think that unarmed fighting is really the way to go. This was WotC's way of trying to give us a pugilist without just, you know, getting a hold of Benjamin and just putting the pugilist in the game. And I don't think that this is a great way to go about it. So, yeah, unarmed fighting, this one is really, really meh. There are so many better ways that this could have been achieved, and like, I just don't really know why you would go this over just about any other fighting style. Well, I mean, you know, I say any other fighting style, any of the purple fighting styles here. So, you know, your choice. Like I said, niche build kind of a thing here. Okay, with all the fighting styles out of the way, we're going to get into Second Wind. With Second Wind, I marked this one as a purple. Unless you go with a 2-weapon fighting build, this one is definitely a purple, because with 2-weapon fighting, your bonus action can get bogged down and you can feel like, I don't really know. Yeah. Second Wind, though, with this happening as a bonus action on your turn, what you can do is just regain hit points equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level. This is quick, instantaneous healing. And then once you use this feature, you must finish a short or long rest before you can use it again. So as a designer, what I'm thinking about is short rest refresh this is a thing that I would hope that the player would be able to use at like once per combat. You know, if you're in a dungeon and you're not able to get those short rests in all that great, then like this cannot feel super awesome. This is part of the reason why I home ruled that like a short rest of 10 minutes on my tables. Fighters are definitely going to be using this feature a lot more in combat if, you know, they know that they can get it back a lot easier like that. Otherwise, it just feels a little bit too risky for them to be using this one. But Second Wind, this is something that you can just tap into once per combat to essentially be getting back what is like a roll of your hit dice, right? This is very nice. Do not overlook this one, and I always love it whenever there's fighter subclasses that build onto this feature right here. I love Second Wind. I would love to see it probably enhanced just a tad bit more. I think that there are some fixes that could be made to Second Wind, but overall, don't overlook this one. Don't forget it's on your character sheet. This is really, really nice security for you to have. All right, at second level, you get the strongest class feature in the entire game, Action Surge. Starting at second level, you can push yourself beyond your normal limits for a moment. On your turn, you can take one additional action. Once you use this feature, you must finish a short or long rest before you can use it again. Starting at 17th level, you can use it twice before a rest, but only once on the same turn. This feature is insane. I think that we would likely see Action Surge in the future move towards like a 6th level feature for Fighter. We know that this one is absolutely nutty. You want to go full Nova on your turn. Notice that this doesn't require like your bonus action use or whatever. No, just on your turn, you can take one additional action and then you can't do so again until you get your nap in, right? Now, with this, one of the ways I think that we may see it change in the future is that like this additional action can only be used to take the attack action or like specific actions because of the way that this is. A lot of people are looking at multi-classing over into Fighter for 2 levels to make it to where they can cast 2 spells during their turn, right? And that feels a little bit like meh. But with Action Surge, this is a way for you to go full combo in combat. You want to completely nuke the enemy during a turn, this is the way that you do it right here. This is such a crazy core piece of your kit. You are always going to want this up during combat. Please, please, please get your good sleep because you want this up in every single combat. To go on from there, Martial Archetype. These are going to be your subclass choices. At 3rd level, you choose an archetype that you strive to emulate in your combat styles and techniques. Choose Champion, Battlemaster, or Eldritch Knight, detailed at the end of this class, yada yada yada. This is for the player's handbook, right? We now have a whole bevy of different fighter subclasses for you to choose from. I'll go through them really briefly here and just kind of describe their overall like loadout and what their role is kind of informing you to do in combat. Arcane Archer, this one's, they were trying to create a magical archer. This is in Xanthar's guide. This is one of the ones that's going to underperform right now because it just doesn't get access to the resources. It really, really needs to be an Arcane Archer. It's in a pretty sad state, unfortunately. I don't know that I would really highly recommend this one over going with like, go Eldritch Knight and then go with a bow because this one is meh. It wants to be a really good striker. It just doesn't, unfortunately, it doesn't deliver on that. Battlemaster, you can make this fighter into basically whatever you want it to be. The maneuvers are giving you great flexibility in combat and like, more so if you want to think about stuff beyond just I hit stuff really hard, this is like I hit something and then I can cause an additional effect, or I want to be thinking about like positioning. I'm a bit of a chess master, whatever, tactician. I think that you can make a really fantastic kind of a commander with the Battlemaster. You can make a just sort of quick, dexterous, like weapon master type, a little bit of like swashbuckler flair if you want to go with like being able to counterattack and things like that in the Battlemaster. This is a pretty vanilla fighter in a way. It's adding a little bit more complexity on top of what would be a vanilla fighter. I've heard people describe, Champion Fighter as vanilla and Battlemaster is also vanilla, but like, I think that Champion is vanilla and Battlemaster is honestly like, kind of like Rocky Road. There's a little bit of chunk in here, Cavalier, you want to be a mounted tank. This is one of the better ways to tank in 5e, for sure. This is a pretty solid archetype overall, despite the fact that, like, mounted combat can feel a little bit weird whenever you're dungeon delving, right? So, Born to the Saddle, this could be a feature that doesn't feel like it's really doing much for you, like, at all, but, for mounted combat, this is pretty cool, yeah, but while you're not mounted, you are a tank. That is Cavalier's entire intent. Champion! Alright, this one's very, very vanilla. You are getting a lower crit range reduction I see people go over in multi-class, over into fighter, and then whenever they get to 3rd level, they pick up improved critical, and then they go back to whatever other classes they were getting, right? They're really happy getting Action Surge, Second Wind, the fighting style, and this. This is a fantastic thing to pick up, all loaded for you here at 3rd level. Beyond that, mostly you're just getting, yeah, I'm, Fighter McFighterson here. Remarkable Athlete is not really all that fantastic for you. It can feel a little bit cluttered, actually, overall. The additional fighting style you can get at 10th level is going to be pretty nice. Superior Critical, reducing it down to an 18 to 20 is going to be fantastic. Oh, man. But Survivor at 18th level, this is here. It's, yeah, again, very vanilla type of a fighter here with the champion. I think some people can feel that it's a little bit boring, but hey, some of us are here for this kind of just, yeah, I am hero McDude. I'm going to go out there and do all the things. Moving on from there into the Echo Knight, I'm going to call this one third party. I know that this was published in a Wizards of the Coast quote-unquote book, but like, let's be real here, this thing is not really built like a reasonable fighter overall. The Manifest Echo, this thing needs a resource cap because you being able to cheese this outside of combat completely breaks down the interaction side of the game. You being able to just send the Echo in and set off traps or whatever. There's way too much safety for your character if you go with the Echo Knight here because of this thing right here. The teleport that you can do with it is absolutely insane. This thing is just not really designed like a 5e fighter. Cannot recommend allowing the Echo Knight at your table in its current state. Eldritch Knight is meant to be the Gish of 5e. You're going to be a bit of a spell sword with this one. You have some blaster potential with it, but really you're a debuffing support on top of being a striker. This is generally a pretty decent subclass overall, but personally at my tables, I really recommend the full-on class of the Magus by Benjamin Huffman, or if you want a spell sword with a little bit of different kind of flair to it, I also recommend the Sculptor by Ross Leiser. These both feel like they're embracing a different kind of Gish that, like, the Eldritch Knight just doesn't quite do it for me. Gunslinger, this is another third-party one that is just not really going to perform all that well. I actually really recommend the Gunslinger by Heavy Arms for this kind of a concept. The misfire mechanic that happens in here is going to be very, very frustrating to play with as a player. All kinds of feedback has said, yep, this needs to just get completely gutted from the Gunslinger overall. Yeah, I wish that this one was really cool and in a state where it felt like it was even competitive against the other fighters, but boy, the playfield is just not super great on the Gunslinger. Psi Warrior is giving you some elements of control as well as like a pseudo buff and support alongside being a really, really strong striker, as with basically every other fighter you're going to see in here. The amount of control that you're getting in this one is actually pretty nice overall. I do like the protective field, just a sudden... Look, if you want to play as a Jedi, this is definitely the way to go with it. The Psi Warrior is giving you all that, like, sci-fi flair without just straight up throwing a lightsaber into your hands. Purple Dragon Knight, I would love to see this one in a really great state. This is also known as the Banneret. In fact, I kind of wish that they had just called it the Banneret and embrace the commander side of it, This one does really want to be a commander, but being a commander, as I am currently learning as I am writing my Sovereign class, being a commander in this game it just removes some agency from other players, or can potentially feel like you've lost out on your turn by going with this route. The scaffolding on this one is also a bit odd. By that I mean that you're getting like a skill proficiency that comes on pretty late compared to other fighters and can just feel pretty like, what? Why? It is cool to see a subclass that is building off of things like Second Wind or Action Surge or Indomitable, right? Yeah, Indomitable. It's cool to see a subclass that is building off of the other like fighter features in here. I like so much of what Purple Dragon Knight wants to do, but it can feel a little bit just sort of meh. You can go check out some other breakdowns on this class. In fact, you know what? I'll make a subclass guide on this one soon. Okay, Rune Knight. This is arguably the strongest fighter in the entire game that I think is at least to a point of like quote-unquote reasonable play. I did do a breakdown on the Rune Knight. Some of these runes are absolutely insane. Rune Knight's Cloud Rune, just allowing you to use your reaction and completely redirect an attack, is insane. Fire Rune being able to like restrain something. Yeah, This isn't requiring any more of the action economy here. If you hit the thing with an attack, you can restrain it here if it doesn't succeed on the strength save. This can potentially fall off a little bit later on, but yeah, I did a review on the Rune Knight. Other than that, you can become a big boy, you Hulk out. Yeah, but for the most part, this is going to be I say a striker. You do have some support built into here, but like, I think in some ways I'm happier with this as a Gish than I am of the Eldritch Knight. I like the flair that it's going for here. I actually liked it so much. Hey, I wrote an entire class that was embracing this system. So yeah, anyways, plug there. But yeah, so the Rune Knight, I think some people feel like this one is going to overperform and it's potentially ban worthy. I think in some cases, maybe the argument is, totally valid. But yeah, overall, the Rune Knight, you're getting a heavy striker, as well as a support and debuffer. Samurai is one of the most disgustingly cool single target strikers in the entire game. Boy, you being able to just straight up forgo the advantage to become the anime swordsman you want to be with this thing, to make additional attacks on your turn. This is just absolutely nutty what you can do with this one. In some ways, I actually think that this is one of my favorite and most, like, quote-unquote well-designed fighter subclasses in the entire game. Boy, Fighting Spirit, they realize that this bonus action might kind of feel like it's going to clash with Second Wind, so instead you can grant yourself the advantage and then get the temporary hit point. Yeah, that was just such a nice thing that they did with this in Xanthar's Guide. I really have a lot that I appreciate in the Samurai. Don't overlook this one, even if you want to just label it something as, like, I don't know, Master of the Blade or whatever, and not go with, like, all of the Samurai flair that comes with that. Just don't overlook the Samurai. Okay, so that's covering those martial archetypes, and again, I've covered a lot of these subclasses here on the channel, so the links for those are going to be down there in the description if you want to see my guide into a particular martial archetype. From there, you're going to get actually a bit more out of the ability score improvement. Reason they designed it this way is because they wanted you to definitely go pick up feats with the fighter to kind of define what it meant to be a fighter to you. So it's cool that they have that in here. You're going to get the ability score improvement at 4th, 6th, 8th, 12th, 14th, 16th, and 19th level. So from there, we're going to go into 5th level where you get extra attack. Beginning at 5th level, you can attack twice instead of once whenever you take the attack action on your turn. Fighter's specialty here is that the number of attacks increases to 3 when you reach 11th level in this class, and to 4 when you reach 20th level in this class. This is one of the few vanilla capstones that I am just like, oh my god, this is so worth it. This is capstone worthy right here, absolutely. With the number of attacks increasing, also remember that you're getting Action Surge on a class that's going to have more attacks. Oh my god, this is absolutely insane. Yeah, the full combo that you're going to get out of this, like, you take 2 attacks here, Action Surge take 4 attacks during your turn. This is nutty. Absolutely nutty. Do not sleep on Fighter, guys. For real. Indomitable. There's a couple levels that go by where we're getting, like, some of our martial archetype features, some ability score improvements, yada yada. But then eventually at 9th level, we're getting Indomitable. I've given this one a blue because I think that overall this one feels a little bit weak. But beginning at 9th level, you can re-roll a saving throw that you fail. If you do, you must use a new roll, and you can't use this feature again until you finish a long rest. You can use this feature twice between long rests starting at 13th level, and 3 times between long rests starting at 17th level. This is totally a decent defensive feature right here. It's not bad. It's a blue, right? I know that this is strong. It's just, it feels pretty underwhelming compared to everything else that Fighter's getting. Eventually, after Indomitable, essentially all that you're getting is just more uses of other class features you already have here, as well as extra attacks and your ability score improvements. You're going to be getting more than any other class, so you eventually crescendoing up to being able to take 4 attacks on your turn instead of 3 whenever you take the attack action on your turn. This is absolutely insane and so capstone worthy. I love so much of what Fighter's throwing out. I know that people have attempted to, like, remaster or revise Fighter, but, like, it is a pretty solid class overall if you're just like, I want to sit down and play D&D. I don't want to have to be thinking about managing a whole lot of resources or whatever. Boy, this is a very, very simple class to play. Highly recommended for brand new players to check this one out. So that's going to be it for my guide on how to play the fighter. Let me know what you all think down in the comment sections below. Am I wrong about something? Is there something that I missed? Give me a shout. I always love learning more about this game. So I want to throw a huge shout out to my Patreon sponsors. Thank you all so much for helping me keep the lights on around here and coffee in my blood. Y'all are absolute heroes. And hey, if you want to up your game as a designer and join up with a community that is bustling with a bunch of other designers and professional homebrewers and other YouTubers, if you sign up over on my Patreon for at least $3 a month, you get access to my private Discord where we're all chatting over there about people learning to professionally publish or just asking questions about how to play a certain thing or just talk video games, whatever. It's been a really, really fun community. I'm actually now moving over towards a private model because I want to try to get moderators paid and, do all that good stuff. So yeah, if you join up with the Patreon at $3 a month or higher, you do get access to that community. And we also do the monthly consultation streams here on the channel where I will look through your homebrew and give you some advice on what all we should do to improve it or, whatever. So yeah, if that sounds like fun, come join up over there. I should be sprawling their names up over here somewhere. But anyways, you all are staying safe, staying healthy, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.